This week we're looking at the Ace of Wands. Thanks. Wands represent the element of fire. Ah! Welcome back to Kippy's Quest. So we're starting with the Ace, as we will for each of the suits in the minor arcana.
Why? Most books start with the king and work backwards.
That might work well in a book, but because the aces represent the foundations, I thought we could use them as an introduction to each suit, and then work our way up to the chord cards.
I'm writing a book. It's called The Caterpillar What Done a Ritual.
Oh good. Anyway, as I was saying, the aces symbolise the potential of each element. This is the core concept or quintessence of the suits. L'Armalo Duquette says, ultimately there are not 56 cards in the minor arcana of the tarot, there are only 4. The 4 aces. The other 52 cards live inside the 4 aces. So we can look at the aces as the basic idea of the element before anything is actually manifested. According to Aleister Crowley, the point to remember is that both in their appearance and in their meaning, the aces are not the elements themselves, but the seeds of those elements. All of the aces in the Waite Smith deck are shown as a hand appearing out of a cloud and holding the tool of that particular suit. These are partly inspired by the Tarot de Marseille, which had a similar idea for the wands and the swords. This is another reference to the quintessential aspect of the card, and how the elemental forces are viewed as gifts from divinity. Rachel Pollack says we cannot cause or produce them by any normal means. They come to us as hands emerging from clouds. Now because the aces symbolise the potential of their suit before they're manifested into any kind of material form, they're seen as neither good nor bad, but kind of neutral. According to Aleister Crowley, the great point is that all of the elemental forces, however sublime, powerful or intelligent, are blind forces and no more.
The Hermetic title for the Ace of Wands is Root of the Powers of Fire.
Now that says it all really. We can view this card as the quintessential concept of wands and the element of fire. So when we talk about fire, we're referring to will, intuition and desire. It's no accident that occultists always list fire as the first elemental force. If you think about it, just about everything that we accomplish has to start with the desire to do so. It could be said that our modern evolution began with our discovery of how to harness the power of fire. From simple survival, such as keeping warm, cooking food and heating water to remove bacteria, right up to the Industrial Revolution and the modern way of life that we all take for granted. We can't deny that fire has been an integral part of our history as a species. However, from a psychological perspective, we talk about how someone has a fire in their belly when they're enthusiastic or determined, or we say that someone has lost their fire if they become despondent or apathetic. We see fire as the driving force that pushes us forward to achieve and make progress in our lives. We also imagine fire to be the lifeblood of our romantic relationships. We talk about how to keep the flame burning, or we say the fire has gone out when we fall out of love. We look upon fire as the passion that motivates every aspect of our lives. In Greek mythology, fire was stolen from the gods by Prometheus, who then gifted it to humanity, kickstarting our civilization. Zeus then punished Prometheus for this by chaining him to a rock and sending an eagle to eat his liver. Luckily for him, his liver then grew back overnight.
Thank goodness, my liver's grown back overnight.
Unluckily for him, this was only so that the eagle could eat it again.
Hello, I brought some onions with me this time.
Oh, bugger.
Regardless, Prometheus is viewed as the champion of mankind and represents the idea of human striving. The card itself shows the typical image of a hand holding a wand and being thrust out from a cloud. In this and all of the cards in the Waite Smith deck, we can always see leaves growing from the wands, in a similar way to the wood that the hangman appears on back at number 12 in the majors. Waite describes this as living wood, which supports the notion that the wands represent some kind of life force. Waite says the wands throughout this suit are always in leaf, as it is a suit of life and animation. This is taken to its highest degree in the ace, as we can see the leaves growing and cascading from the wand being presented from the heavens. The divine aspect of the card is further illustrated by another reference to the Tetragrammaton. Rachel Pollack says the leaves burst out so abundantly that they fall off to become Yods, the first letter of God's name. At the bottom of the card we can see a landscape of trees, hills and a river flowing through it. On top of the hill we can see a castle or walled city. This is another reference to the civilization we talked about in the Prometheus myth, and to the accomplishments of humanity, when the will and ambition represented by the wands is put to use and manifested into something solid and tangible.
The Ace of Wands takes up the 90 degrees in the zodiac wheel that incorporates Cancer, Leo and Virgo. Leo sits in the centre as the fixed sign to correspond with fire, the element attributed to wands.
Now the suit of wands itself actually corresponds to the fire signs of Aries, Leo and Sagittarius. However, according to the Golden Dawn, the Ace and the Page of Wands both cover the area of the wheel that contains Cancer, Leo and Virgo. This means that in both ways of looking at the zodiac, we always find the fixed fire sign of Leo in the centre for the wands. Of all the zodiac signs, Leo is considered to be the most extrovert, ambitious and confident. Determination is another important aspect associated with Leo, which fits really well with the overarching theme of this particular card.
The Ace of Wands resides in the world of Absolute and sits in the highest Sephiroth of Keter, at the very top of the Pillar of Mildness. The name of this Sephiroth translates to crown.
So we're in the fiery world of Absolute and at the uppermost point of the tree. Keter is the first Sephira on the Tree of Life and is considered to be the emanating power that cascades down into the other Sephiroth. According to Israel Regardie, in his classic book on the Kabbalah, A Garden of Pomegranates, Keter is the first manifestation of the primordial point, which becomes the primeval root from which all else will spring. Straight away we can see that the ace fits perfectly with this definition. It's like the seed that grows into the rest of the cards. The Tree of Life can sometimes be looked upon as the process of manifesting a desire, and in no other card is that initial desire more apparent than in this one.
The Ace of Wands herb is yarrow. This herb is used to promote circulation and sweating. It also relieves congestion. Bless you.
But what does it all mean?
When the Ace of Wands appears, it's generally taken as a sign of abundant energy and optimism. It's a great card to get where we're considering starting some new project or planning an adventure. We can look at it in a way similar to the Fool, in that it heralds new beginnings.
Ooh, I quite like that. Maybe you should start calling me Ace.
Yeah, somehow I feel like Fool just seems to suit you better.
Better than what?
Never mind. Arthur Edward Waite's divinatory meanings are creation, invention, enterprise, the powers which result in these. Principle, beginning, source, birth, family, origin, and in a sense the virility which is behind them, the starting point of enterprises. It can also be a card of love and passion, and works as a symbol of the excitement we feel at the dawn of a new relationship. We keep coming back to the concept of new ideas and inceptions for this one. Rachel Pollack says, at the beginning of some situation, no card could signal a better start. It gives eagerness and strength. When the ace appears upside down, it can mean that the energy of wands has failed to produce the intended outcome. This could be due to a lack of focus or direction. The desire and will is still there, but it's not being put to use in any meaningful way, and so the result is the collapse of an idea. Waite mentions fall, decadence, ruin, perdition, to perish, also a certain clouded joy. This last part is interesting because it connects to the reading of the inverted sun back at number 19 in the majors. This is the idea that the energy is obscured from us in some way. Rachel Pollack says Waite included a much lighter reading for the reverse ace, clouded joy. Then the ace becomes like the 4 or the 6. The wonder and happiness exists, even when we cannot or will not see it in front of us. The big takeaway for this card is the concepts of will, passion and determination. When we feel the strong desire to create or take action in a situation, that's the Ace of Wands right there, spurring us on and giving us the energy to achieve the best possible outcome.
Thank you once again for popping in to Kippy's Quest. May the coming days bring you confidence, enthusiasm and the strong will to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.